Actually, we have one quick question here, and I'll get to a gentleman on the right. Go ahead. Microphone, right here.
Kinji Yasu, Intercontinental Resources within advisory business. My question is more oriented toward Ambassador Carden. ASEAN and EU may be two different things because having different origin. However, if Ambassador Carden might have anything to suggest to ASEAN, given what has happened and what is going on for EU. Thank you.
Thank you. If the question is, what do I say to my ASEAN friends that's relevant in the EU experience, the answer is a lot. My own belief is that there's much to be learned from the EU by way of the advantages of integration, and that for many, many years the EU was quite successful in terms of labor movement, for example, the standards that were applied across the region. And so I borrow from that quite regularly to explain that there are many advantages that can be learned from what it is the EU was able to accomplish. Of the 27 members in the EU, I also say there's only 3 countries that lag behind Malaysia in per capita income, something which people don't often focus upon. And those were former countries under the Soviet Union, Latvia, Bulgaria, and Romania. The Malaysian experience is, of course, one within the region which people look to as to what is possible. So I think that the problems that have occurred in the EU, which are perhaps beyond today's events, today's gathering to talk about, are often centered on, at least the way I talk to my friends, on a common currency. And I can say, I think fairly comfortably, that the ASEANs are not talking about a single currency. The truth is that the ASEANs are in very, very different positions, and the economies are very disparate, as you all know, from over $50,000 per capita income in Singapore to $450 or $500 in Myanmar. So, but there still are lessons about what opportunities are out there, and I think it's actually a good question because it affords, both today and when I received the question, because it gives us the opportunity to talk about what systems need to be put in place in order to accomplish what it is the EU was able to accomplish by way of economic development.
Gentleman to the right had his hand up, and then I'll get to the middle. There's your microphone. Name and affiliation.
Yes. Hi, I'm Lance Gatling. I'm the Vice President of Asia Pacific for Alliant Tech Systems, which is the largest aerospace firm you never heard of. I'm going to try to keep my question shorter than Roy extended detailed admonition to keep my mouth shut, keep the question short, but I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate the folks here, the Chiefs of Mission, on the FCS folks. As a former Foreign Service officer myself, I always admonish my folks to go see them, and we've had a lot of interactions with folks as recently as Ambassador Adelman's folks in Singapore at the air show, and they really do a great job. It's a tremendous professional jump over when I was in the Foreign Service a few million years ago. But since we build from boots to bullets to spacecraft, it's kind of hard. I'm meant to be that strategy guy that Ambassador Carden said didn't really do a good job of it. But one of the things that really puzzles us is the development of the free trade zone within ASEAN, and what those challenges are. We source out of Asia. We sell in for commercial, military, civil markets, and that's really got us puzzled. And I'd like the comments from the gentleman regarding that development of that and the opportunities and challenges. Thank you.
If the question is whether or not the United States is going to enter into any free trade agreements with ASEAN, then I defer to my U.S. trade colleagues. I can say that there are so many challenges facing us, facing the ASEANs by way of their economic development and the development of systems that makes any such effort such as that, I think, difficult, particularly when our focus has been on TPP. And of course, as you perhaps know, there are 4 ASEANs that are engaged in the TPP discussions right now. There are 2 more who are interested, that being the Philippines and Thailand. I don't know how interested they may be. So there is real reason to be hopeful, I think, that there will be some evolutionary change by way of trade agreements. Now, I think it's important when you talk about the ASEANs, and I caution people from time to time, I would talk about, well, what do you mean? And ASEANs came in at different times. They have different states in their economy. The lower Mekong countries, of course, are lagging behind developmentally from the ASEANs that came in 1967 and thereafter. And so it makes it difficult to deal with them as a bloc. There are countries, of course, that have entered into free trade agreements with the ASEANs. Those are, I think, very limited in terms of various products, and I don't know what success they've been having, but I know there have been some issues with regard to that. So I think the conversation in the near term is going to be a TPP conversation. And I, again, defer to my colleagues here that are closer to those conversations than am I. And one can but hope that the Philippines and Thailand and others in the region, including Japan, it's open to anyone. It is a living agreement as it moves forward, and it is not closed to anyone.